Yeah, okay. If you guys read the title there, it's I'm doing Corinthians, First Corinthians 15:33. Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. This is basically why I read the Bible now. This is why I read the Bible now. Because even if you don't care about Christianity, you don't care about religion, you don't believe in none of that, you don't believe in God, you can't tell me that's not good advice, yo. You can't tell me that's not good advice, bro. Let's say you're a hacker. Someone pays you money to hack into people's devices, right? You could do that from a moral standpoint. You could get a job for the government. You could be an ethical hacker, right? But if you hang around the wrong crowd, you're going to use your abilities to do the wrong things, you know. And the reason why I like this Bible verse, the reason why I like this one the most, I like this one the most out of what I've read recently. It says, "Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. Your character is the way that people see you." So if you hang around the wrong crowd for long enough and you know that you're hanging around the wrong crowd, what's going to happen is you're going to think that you're getting away with it. You're going to get comfortable. You're going to think, hey, I got it under control. I know what I'm doing. I got this. And the reality is that for a while you may be good at doing something, hanging around bad people. But the reason you might be getting away with it is because somebody's putting a case together on you, putting together a RICO. So they're letting you get away with it. And it applies to everything. Whether you gamble or drink or do drugs, or whether you fight too much, whether you womanize, you have lust, a lot of those things get instigated by the people that we hang around. And the way that it's quoted, here is bad company corrupts good character. So what happens is those bad apples that you hang around will eventually reflect on you. So you could be a really good apple, really good shiny Granny Smith apple hanging from the tree. And what happens is if there's three bad apples next to you, guess what? It's going to be harder to see that you're a good apple. And a lot of times in my life I've gotten myself into problems and I've set myself back. I've made the wrong decisions about things, and I realize a lot of it comes from the fact that I did not really take heed to that particular verse in the Bible. You know, I've been someone who's been very open to a lot of energies in my life, not realizing that some of these energies are bad. And if I'm always inviting the people, always allowing them to come into my life, then those bad energies, mislead me down certain paths that I should never went down. And I've accepted that now, and I struggle with it still. Sometimes to this day, I still struggle with it, but it's part of what life is about. We all learn our lessons and we all advance and we grow at different rates and different speeds. And sometimes a lot of us repeat the lessons. This is something that I'm starting to realize, the things that I chose to do and I got into still affect my life to this day. I made choices to get involved with things and organizations and people. And it takes you down with it. It definitely takes a part of you with it. And in order to get back to being yourself, you have to align yourself with positive things and positive organizations. That's why I read the Bible, and I do it on YouTube for a pastime. Whether people watch it or not, it doesn't really matter. I know that sometimes when I'm sitting alone, my mind will start to drift, and the only way I can really work on it is I have to focus on positivity and finding positive passages that can help me get through the night and hopefully make better decisions for the next day. And if it helps someone, that's cool, But that's where I'm at with it. So this one says, "Do not be misled." I mean, that is like asking that you do not fall for the traps. You know what I mean? Don't fall for the traps. And If you don't know for the first time, it's fine. If you don't know and you make a mistake in life, you make a bad decision, like because you didn't know, okay, fine. You know what I mean? Hopefully you can get out of it and get back on track in your life. But, I'm starting to realize that I'm somebody who's made like the same mistake over and over again, like several times, failing to realize that it's really just tearing myself apart from the inside because I want to be viewed a certain way. And I realize that the way I'm being viewed is based on the company that I've kept, the actions that I took. I allowed myself to be misled again. So people say, well, that's who you are. That's who you are now, and I just hate that feeling. I hate that feeling of knowing like you meant well, you wanted to do good, but in actuality, because you were fooled and you were misled, you chose an action that led you down a path, and now people don't view you the way that you want to be viewed. Now you feel that you failed yourself, and it makes you feel like you failed. Makes you feel like you failed others. So I read the Bible a lot now. I read the verses because I understand that it's an everyday thing. Staying on point, making the right decision, and arming yourself with the proper knowledge to go forward, so that you don't make these mistakes. Because, like I said, even if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, even if you don't believe in Christianity, like you should believe in like wisdom and like good advice. You know what I mean? And that was one of those things that I neglected when I was younger, and now I see it, and I'm like, man, these are like really, really good life lessons. The other thing about like about reading the Bible is like it's a precursor to read like other books and other texts. And it's in my belief now it is at 44 years old that men should fill their brains with texts and education. And when I say I hate education. I hate education. That's like the wrong word. Men should read. Men should read. Men should share books with other men, swap ideas. We should always be evolving. And I kind of realized that now. I stopped for so many years. And like your body stops growing, and I said, oh, my mind has stopped growing too. Well, that's the problem. That's the real problem. That's the root of my problem. You know. And if you don't arm yourself, with the right text and the right word, you will be easily misled. And that's what's happened to me so many times. I've become easily misled. Bad company corrupts good character. Yep. And that goes for companies, bad companies, places that I worked before that I knew didn't have my best interest at heart, corrupted my character because I was too focused on, well, I'm here now, let me make the money, and I've allowed money to rule my life. And I've let bad relationships rule my life. And see, now I'm working on it, saying it's not a woe is me moment. It's realizing that in order for me to transform, even though I'm an older male, I'm an older male now, but in order for me to transform to the person that I believe I should have been or I want to be, it's going to take time now because I started so late. But it definitely starts with the process of growing your brain again. And that comes from reading, studying, sharing ideas, looking for mentors, and that's where I'm at. I've accepted the fact that I have been misled quite a bit. And I've accepted the fact now that the way that my character is, I've always, a lot of times we carry ourselves as the way, in our minds, we carry ourselves is the way that we perceive ourselves. But the world doesn't perceive us that way. The world perceives us based on the company that we spend time with. And that can rub off on the things you do. And then what happens is people don't see you as the individual that you are, or the individual that you wish to be seen as. You wish to be seen as, hey, look, I'm a good person, I'm trying to do the right thing. But people don't see that because you've chosen, you were easily misled, and now you spend time with the wrong groups of individuals. And that's the problem. If you guys see me moving a lot, it's because I have to go to the chiropractor tomorrow. It's time for an adjustment. You can even see my back's out of alignment. It's time to do that. So as I move forward, I try to read the Bible almost every day now. And, I've spoken to a lot of people about like healing and like getting on your journey and getting on your path. It doesn't matter, your age, as long as you get on it, you get on that path to self improvement. And the first thing is realizing is like, yeah, you got to start over. You know, you have to accept the fact that like you messed that up. A lot of people like to hang on, and I was doing it for a while too. I was hanging on to a lot of stuff, and it's important to realize like, no, you messed that up. That past is gone. Like you made a lot of mistakes. You made a lot of karmic mistakes. You messed things up. You had an opportunity to fix it. You didn't fix it. You had an opportunity to get better. You had an opportunity to change it and change, and then like eventually you have to realize like, look, you can't just keep hanging on to coulda, shoulda, woulda. It's time to accept the fact that um, like it really is a two-part process. It says you don't allow yourself to be misled, and you were, and accepting the fact that me being misled has changed my character. All those bad companies, bad influences now rubbed off on me, and to the outside world, you're like, well, how come people don't see me the way that I see myself? And it's because you don't see that on the outside. You've changed. You still, in your mind, you perceive yourself to be that same person that you were when you were 20 years old. And now I see it and I say, oh, I see. People are viewing me as I am. You still view yourself. I still view myself as like the potential of who I could be. And it's like, but people don't see it anymore because you've allowed yourself to get involved with things that you should have never got involved in the first place because I didn't take the time to have the wisdom to study the Bible and other texts to make proper decisions for my life and be my own life coach. So that's the verse for the day, y'all. All right. It's 1 Corinthians 15:33. Read it. Write a comment if you want. If someone watches this on the replay, tell me how you feel, how it's affected your life. I appreciate anyone who's been rocking with me while I'm doing this, But it's a slow process, I've had a lot of things happen. I've kind of been correcting my health and my life and just kind of slowly getting on track. I know it's not an overnight process, but I'm working on it, and for the few people that do support me, I appreciate it. As you could tell, if you watch a lot of my videos, like I'm not nearly as like happy or joyous as I used to be. Like, I've accepted the fact that like a lot of towers have come down in my life, and I'm getting through that period of disappointment, but, I've released it and said, yeah, I messed it up. I did. And letting it go is the first step to making the proper decision when the next opportunity comes. Life is all about crossroads. You get to the crossroads, and a lot of us, keep making the wrong choice at the crossroads. And if you live long enough, what happens is you know what the right choice is. Eventually, you know what the right choice is. And then it's like if you still keep making the wrong choice, then it's a problem. So I appreciate all y'all who keep praying with me. You know what I mean? I know you guys see me up here praying and stuff. It's because like I'm going through some real stuff. Other than my back, I know you guys can see how my back is. You know what I mean? You can see like how my head is like leans to this side. It's kind of tough, but I got my eyes done. Hopefully, the macular degeneration has been repaired. I obviously waited too long on this. I had to have emergency vitrectomy, but I am going to try and work on my health, which is important to balancing out your energies. You guys can see, like, look how when I sit up straight, do you see how like my shoulders and my head and my neck, like they're all out of alignment? I got to go to chiropractor, and that's going to help, And I have to start doing it regularly, which is tough to do when I was in the truck. But one step at a time, and then my mind, my body, my soul, hopefully coming back and making the right decisions, so that I can, grow the way that I want to grow, and then hopefully be an influence to other people as well. So for any of you who watch this video later on the replay, thank you. Appreciate it. Hope you do well on your journey too. And God bless. All right.